Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet.
This week we are wrapping up our challenge review for the June design challenge. These design challenge episodes are all about kind of getting better at Magic, thinking through cards, thinking through their implications, finding comparable cards, learning about rules, things we didn't know. And I would say learning about rules, things you didn't know has been especially relevant for this month's challenge.
And things we don't know may or may not be able to limit, stop, tax, protect, counter, or sacrifice us with the design challenge, Haughty Juno. Design a hate bear for curtailing a particular strategy, like doing one of the participles that I just listed.
Yeah. We got some bonus points as well. We've got give us a musical theme, give us something that relates to exile, cast from exile, stuff like that. But our main thing is going to be looking at this hate bear concept. 2 mana, 2/2-ish, plenty flexible there. And then how does it limit some strategies? Is it more about limiting? Does that limit create enabling? In our first episode, we had someone say nobody can discard cards. And it turns out you might be able to break that and make your deck busted. But we'll see a mixture of slowing down the opponent and maybe some things you can take advantage of yourself.
Our first submission is from Honk Honk. It's Wobbles the Goose. Is Cicada Celebrant. It's 5 mana, that's 3 generic and green for a 6/3 creature insect bard. And it has Disguise for 2 and green, so Disguise for 4 mana. And then as a separate ability, pay 1 and a green to cloak a card from your hand and prepare this creature. And then it has a prepared inset spell, which is Surprise Party. 4 mana, that's 2 generic and 2 red. It's a sorcery with turn any number of face-down creatures you control face up.
Oh.
As a reminder, Disguise is morph, but it's 3 generic mana for a 2/2 creature, but the creature has ward 2. Cloak is that, but manifest. It's you're taking a card from somewhere, flipping it face down. It's a 2/2 with ward 2.
Yeah. So before we get to the prepare part, if we're just looking at this card, like the main body of this card, 5 mana, 6/3, you could instead do, hey, I don't have 5 mana yet, or I don't have double green yet. I could make this a 3 mana 2/2, and then flip it up later for 4 mana. So I could spend 7 mana installment plan or 5 mana altogether to get a 6/3. I would say 6 power on a morph creature is like a naturally very fun surprise. Maybe not for your opponent, but it certainly can make an impact. Hey, it adds to the guessing game of face down cards. Hey, which ones are actually dangerous? Which ones are not dangerous? It's hard to tell. This one is going to clobber your opponent. They let it through and you smack them for 6. The other ability, once it's face up, it can't do this face down. But once it's face up, you can pay 1 and a green to take any card from your hand and put it face down, which I think is kind of a naturally good ability, I would say, even before we get to this prepare stuff, because I could just pay 1 and a green at any time. I've got extra lands in my hand, put them face down. My opponent might not know that they're creatures. I could put gigantic creatures from my hand onto the battlefield face down. And then part of cloaking is the ability to pay your mana cost to flip back up. I can add a bunch of things to the battlefield, some of which are gigantic evil creatures, some of which are harmless lands, some of which are, ramp spells I don't need anymore. Before we get to the second half of the card, I think we've already got a classic, close to rare-ish level, interesting, morphy, disguisey, cloaky card.
Yeah. I don't want to overstate its power, but the 1 and a green cloak a card from your hand is just, that feels such a strong ability. It's certainly more vulnerable to removal than another classic Ravnica Rare Pack Rat.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking in similar spaces of you can have this and just a bunch of lands and absolutely overtake a board. And the ability to just pay 2 mana to get a untapped creature token, I feel like if you happen to have 6 mana available and this face down, your opponent attacks in, I'm going to flip Cicada Celebrant face up, and maybe my 6 mana creature will, or my 6 power, my 6/3 Cicada will block your 6 power creature. And then also I'm going to have an extra 2/2 to block the 1/1 that you attacked with, or like the tokens that came along with your thing. That's quite a doozy. Obviously,
Yeah.
that takes
Yeah.
that takes mana and cards, but having those sorts of plays when you're playing fairly on top of any of the potential if you're playing unfairly or if you're just trying to do a long game and that sort of thing makes this card kind of scary.
Yeah. Another kind of nice thing about this is a morph deck. If I'm thinking like a classic Cons of Tarkir morph deck, a lot of times you're maybe not trying to play a lot of low drops. You're just going to say, I'm going to put 9 morph creatures in my deck, and I'm going to play like some removal spells and some big boys. Like, and that's my whole deck. Sometimes you get clogged a little bit, like you have too many of your morph guys, and playing out like 3 or 4 morphs is usually too mana inefficient. You fall too far behind. So if I do find myself in the spot where this is my first guy on the battlefield face down, I flip him up. If I'm a little bit too behind, if Mardu is breathing down my neck, I can just like say, you know what? I would love to spend some more time developing all these creatures, but I just need to not die. Let me dump 3 2/2s onto the battlefield. Let me give up a little value in order to stay alive. And I'm going to dump 3 on the battlefield. My opponent's not going to want to attack anymore. Secretly, one of those is going to be, an actual huge beater. And then I'm going to still play my morph game plan.
For a long time, the kind of ideal morph creature to flip up was a Chroma Angel of Fury. It's, a 8 mana 6/6 flyer with some other abilities. And you can just morph it for a normal cost because that's all morph things start. But instead of paying the 6 mana, you just use any sort of blinking to just like bring that onto the battlefield. And Surprise Party letting you skip needing to have the like AB of have the big creature that has morph or have the big creature get it onto the battlefield with some form of morph and have the blink. I mean, not that blink is bad to like run in your decks that have various big creatures and things, but this kind of does it all. So all you need is a big creature. This is the equivalent of a reanimation creature that like discards and reanimates. This cloaks and flips the cloak. That's a lot all in one package.
Yeah, and so the second half of this card, whenever you're cloaking a creature, you also prepare the creature, which is the new Strixhaven thing, where there's like a little inset spell that you can cast. It's 2 mana to plop the card down and 4 more mana to activate the Surprise Party. The Surprise Party is a sorcery, so you're not doing like full, blow people out of nowhere nonstop kind of stuff. You're a little bit limited. But yeah, I think Reanimator is a good comp. I have a 7-8 mana creature with a great attacks trigger. I get to installment plan, pay 2 mana, then 4 mana to get that out. And if I wanted, pay 2 mana, 2 mana, 2 mana, and then 4 mana to flip 3 things, now I'm getting even further ahead. I would say that the prepared part, the Surprise Party, is what like takes this out of like a cool, pretty powerful draft rare into something that other decks might care about, something that a commander deck would want to play with. The Surprise Party allows for the sort of like super chicanery that like a commander deck needs.
Now I have a question for you about this card, which is how does it meet the defines of this month's design challenge?
Great question. Is it a bear? It makes bears?
Yeah, you can pay 1 and a green for a 2/2 with Ward. And Ward does limit your opponent.
Is it a 2/2 itself or close to a 2/2? No. Does it slow down your opponent? Only in the barest way. So we review the cards that come in. Sometimes people start with one design seed, and then as they work on the card more and find the fun in the card, it kind of grows out of the original constraints of the challenge. I think for me, it's far enough outside the challenge that even though I like this card a lot, I would probably not consider this as like my pick of the week or whatever. But yeah, we've kind of left the zone of the original challenge. We have Bard on here. Bard is cruise control for our musical bonus point.
And spells cast when prepared are kind of from exile in the sense they're not from your hand.
This card does qualify for the secret bonus point, which is it was submitted in June and its power and toughness is 6/3, which is my birthday. So Wobbles did maybe executed the callback there.
Was that I want to see? Yes, June of 2023. The thing was designing insect, pest, or spider for Junebug, and Tim's bonus point was make it a 6/3 for. So this, okay, this is a
This is a time delayed, yeah,
26 challenge submission, but it's actually a thing. And hey, we couldn't have done disguise, cloak, or surprise party back in
there you go
2023. So the more you know.
There we go. All right, great card, Waffles. Thank you for submitting that. Next up from Cord, we've got seemingly a merchandise plug here. Totally not a Cord plush. This is 2 mana for a 2/2, but the 2 mana is double Orzhov hybrid. So white, black. You could play this mono white, you could play this mono black, you play it a mix. It is an artifact creature toy skunk. And then we've got 2 different rules clauses here that are kind of related. Non-anomalous spells cost Phyrexian mana more to cast. And then non-anonymous spells have rebound. Spells with 2 or more card types are anomalous. So, non-anomalous spells, so spells with only 1 card type. So, basically any instant or sorcery, probably any planeswalker, and then like 80% plus of creatures, and enchantments and artifacts, all of them cost either this like colorless Phyrexian mana. I have to pay either 1 extra mana or 2 life. So a little bit of life tax maybe. But those spells have rebound.
A Rise of the Old Eldrazi original mechanic?
Yeah. Normally rebound would be on instant and sorceries. So like I could deal 3 damage and then deal 3 damage next turn. If you cast this spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. At the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. If you do it with the instant or sorcery, I cast Lightning Bolt. Well, it's actually great. I get to cast a bonus Lightning Bolt next turn. But if I cast Grizzly Bears, the Grizzly Bears exiles as it resolves, and then almost gets suspended. It like comes in a turn late. It comes at the beginning of the next turn and finally, stays on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm. I played around with a version of this mechanic in my Curtains Fall micro set, where it was called Pawn, frequently on creatures with either a enters or leaves the battlefield ability, kind of like the evoke elementals from Lorwyn and Morningtide. And it was, hey, when this enters, you can exile it. If you do, you exile it plotted, so that you just cast it on a future turn. Rebound here is, specifically the next upkeep, whereas Pawn was when you can cast this spell. It can be really interesting to design cards around. You're absolutely right that for a random Grizzly Bear or something like that, for things that don't have when this enters or when you cast sort of triggers, this slows everybody down by a full turn.
So if I have like a creature with an enters ability, I play this creature, it's not anomalous. It is a bird from Bloomborough or something. It has an enters ability. The spell resolves, meaning it's not countered. It enters the battlefield, I would think. If you cast the spell from your hand, exile it as it resolves. Did it touch the battlefield? Will it trigger an enters ability?
This might be a different judge thing than layers, which is timings and when something stops being a spell and starts being a permanent.
Yeah.
I think a creature spell enters as it resolves, and then you exile the thing, because it isn't saying exile it like on the stack. And so the resolution has to occur in the thing going through. But that would be peculiar, because if I'm exiling for rebound normally, if I'm casting Stagger Shock, it exile itself, but it still does deal 2 damage. So it's not like that part gets. So yeah, I think the creature becomes a creature as it resolves and then immediately gets exiled. So it did get to see the battlefield. The battlefield got to see it.
Hmm.
Okay, you're casting it without paying its mana cost.
Mm-hmm.
Does it still cost an extra Phyrexian mana to cast the second half? Because it doesn't say non-anomalous spells. The mana cost of non-anomalous spells is a Phyrexian mana more. It says non-anomalous spells cost Phyrexian more to cast. I think in actual Magic syntax, this still only applies to mana costs, but it's not necessarily intuitively obvious that that's the case, especially given that the card has both of these abilities.
Yeah. I think you have to pay this like Phyrexian tax twice.
You do? Okay.
That's my current reading.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to pay additional costs. So like Thalia, non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. If you try to cast a spell like a sorcerer, the rebound, distortion strike, like an unblockable blue rebound spell.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay the extra to initially cast it and pay 1 extra in order to rebound cast it. So it double taps you. And so totally not a cord plush would also charge the Phyrexian cost more. So this is kind of like two Phyrexian mana more to cast, but installment plan. Huh.
Yeah.
I'm like Googling around while we're talking about this, and one of the things about rebound, normally an instant or sorcery says like, as the final part of an instant sorcery spell's resolution, the spell is put into its owner's graveyard. I think rebound actually prevents it from touching the graveyard, which sort of makes me think that it would prevent touching the battlefield? Question mark?
Listeners, chime in and let us know if a creature has specifically and exactly the rebound keyword and not just a spelled out other effect. Would that creature get to see the battlefield?
Yeah. So a lot of this is breaking down kind of the rules implications, which is meaning we're going to have to do a lot of, like, you put this on the table, we're going to have to spend 4 minutes like talking through the implications of it, because like all the things that are going on in this card really impact the flow of the game. Either having to spend a bunch of life, I'm maybe signing my opponent up for spending 12 life just to conduct their game.
Right.
Which is, your opponent's really going to want to know exactly how this card works. So I guess maybe if you already have a format where non-anomalous is like a thing that you don't have to explain, maybe, and Phyrexian Man is already in your game, like colorless Phyrexian Man is already in your game. If we have to do non-anomalous and Phyrexian mana and the interaction between like rebound and permanence, we're kind of loading a card a little too heavy to me.
Yeah. Non-anomalous is a fun mouthful, but that doesn't stop it from being a mouthful.
Yeah.
And it's like if you want to specifically batch things that have exactly one card type, maybe a more direct, but like presumably this exists in a set that has anomalous and non-anomalous as like two kind of factions. This is an artifact creature. I think artifact creatures are the most intuitive thing to try to play with this, such that you go, hi, basically everything I have going on is an artifact creature, maybe some enchantment creatures, maybe some even like artifact enchantments in the Theros style. Maybe I also have most of my like instants or sorceries are kindred instants or sorceries, since kindred is a type and not a subtype or super type. That like those sort of things, and then totally not a cord plush just says everybody else kind of has to deal with a hiccup. And do they get doubles on some things? Yes, but I do really like colorless Phyrexian cost as a Punisher tax, because it is a tax, but in the Punisher style, your opponent can choose whichever is easier for them to deal with.
Yeah.
And if they are sitting on just tons of life and aren't being pressured at all, it's like, this isn't going to slow me down at all. And if they're sitting on plenty of mana, it's later in the game, and you are pressuring the life total sum, they can say, I can spend an extra 1. That doesn't slow me down at all, because the cards in my deck have mana cost 1 lower than my current total number of lands, or, a similar sort of maybe too low, or if you're wanting to cast something every turn and pay the new rebound cost, etc.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good piece of tech that could easily see a bunch of
other applications.
Unless opponent pays Phyrexian, in another thing.
A much kinder, like Rhystic Studies sort of effect, yeah. I mean, kinder in that you're making your opponent lose a bunch of life, but I think there's like the rebound thing is kind of interesting because like if I have lightning bolts in my deck, I'm kind of okay just casting 2 lightning strikes instead. Like I'm actually not too unhappy with that. So I think like you have some flexibility in deck building where it doesn't totally penalize you. Maybe it enables you a little bit. I think if you got the flavor just right, this Phyrexian cost would make a lot of sense. Like this is almost I'm on Phyrexia or whatever, and I'm resisting turning into an evil Phyrexian robot. So I got to pay extra mana in order to not do that. A toy skunk doesn't convey that to me, so it makes it more of like a. I don't have any flavor helping me understand why I'm paying a Phyrexian extra, blah blah blah. Why this rebound? I don't know. Maybe this toy is like inherently very evil or something, but
yeah,
nothing about the cute little toy with a leaf on its head is telling me like we're about to put the screws on you.
The thing that I want to see this mechanic and or card in is, I feel like I've mentioned this on a recent Design Challenge episode somewhere.
Sure.
Edge of Eternities 2.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
sort
sure.
of thing.
Yeah.
Like, here's this like kind of asteroid belt of unreality or weird gravity where there's like Phyrexian stuff. Like, hey, we got a little bit of Eldrazi, we got a little bit of Phyrexia. It's just this one weird planet or black hole or something or whatever. Like, you just gotta phase through. But if you're trying to warp, this gets in the way of warp for whatever reason. It maybe rebound just like interrupts warp, or maybe you just have to pay the tax on both sides, or like something there. I could see this fitting. I do think go buy Chords plush, which I think is for sale. Do give your money to independent designers, as we always
Hell yeah.
say. But I agree that it is this deals the exile. It's a really interesting hate bear that I don't know that most people would look at as number one a hate bear, but like can interrupt certain specific strategies, especially ones that are trying to get a specific board presence on the same turn.
All right. Thanks for the card.
Our next submission is from Auxiliary Otter. It is Prayer Sworn Punisher for 1 and a white. It's a 2/2 creature cat samurai at what looks like rare. It has, whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, create a plea token. It's an enchantment with Exalted. And then it has plot for 1 and a white mana. So you may pay 1 and a white and exile this card from your hand, cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost.
Okay. This is 2 mana 2/2. I can also plot it and cast it for 2. So I'm not getting any discount, but the reason I want to do that plot is because of the first clause. Whenever a player, so your opponent yourself, casts their second spell each turn, get a cool thing. So you can pretty easily, as long as you don't want that 2 extra damage on turn 3, you can say, I'll plot it on turn 2, and then on turn 3, I'll cast this Punisher, and then I'll also cast whatever other spell I want to cast, and now I got my first plea. Plea, an enchantment token with Exalted. This is clearly playing into the Juliet space of anything Alara related. How do you feel about a plea token?
I love it. I am 2 thumbs up and then some. I am prayer emoji about the ardent plea. Originally a 1 white and a blue enchantment. Enchantment with Exalted and Cascade. And that's it. This is something that Otter did bring up in an earlier cube, not a bar cube, because this is a token, but it like a limited token strategy. Boat cube, where there's like a white token, a blue token, like like a specific thing that you're kind of building around in those ways. I'm very on board with trying to examine this. I like Exalted. I think it is a medium fun gameplay strategy for people who are neutral on it. It is a exceptionally fun, how do I build a deck to fit this kind of aggressive, what we would sometimes think of as like White Weenie, but like these days is some type of multicolor aggro deck that can still be answered more easily than, when the strongest bunch of cheap creatures thing is like one of these Convoke decks that just gets out a massive board. Answering that can be particularly difficult. When that's an Exalted deck instead, yes, playing extra creatures can improve this, but there are ways to like do more counterplay for it. And so I've become a fan of Exalted, both because I was a fan of it when it originally came out and for what it can do for constructed environments, including the like more casual side of a constructed environment, like in, Kitchen Table Limited or like slightly casual standard, like arena standards sort of situations. All of which is to say, this is fun. We've seen like Corey Steelcutter in this sort of place where that's like a artifact equipment for 2 mana that when you cast your second spell, you're creating these monks with prowess and then attaching, and then you can just keep making this board. Instead, Pursorn Punisher says, I can keep making these Exalted tokens. They are, generally speaking, I would say 3 Exalted tokens are worth roughly 2 1/1s.
Exalted token's a little worse than a 1/1.
It isn't always worse.
Yeah.
In part because if your opponent answers your Prayer-Sworn Punisher and you have 3 plea tokens out, you still need a creature in order for those to be a threat, which means we can give them out more easily, more readily, and maybe this can go alongside some other things that constrain your opponent in different ways and create plea tokens, in addition to you being able to do it. Because maybe if this was like a 1/1, maybe we are like Corey Steelcutter, only going to be looking at your spells. In this case, it's I can look at your spells, I can look at my spells, I can be playing this, and I play this, and we're all in kind of a aggressive or competitive multiplayer situation, and it comes back to my turn, and I have 3 plea tokens, and then I spell, I've got 4, now I'm attacking in. Like, these sort of situations are possible, and yeah.
Yeah, like it accrues just enough stuff when you enable it on your own that it's basically worth it to play this card, like even without the hate component, like just as a self-enable. Getting 2 Exalted tokens, maybe 3. Now you're talking about like a real rare that's really moving your game plan forward. And then you maybe get 1 or 2 from your opponents, or I guess like maybe you even scale this to like a commandery thing where you are getting multiple plea tokens per turn cycle. So we haven't played that much with Exalted in, I don't know, a decade or more, but Exalted is fun for its ability to like multiply a lot of keywords. Like it's great with lifelink, great with trample, great with flying, great with double strike. So it gives you some hooks. I guess I'm seeing it as like a little more on the enable side and a little less on the hate bear side, but certainly an appealing card that people would want to play.
You know what it might work really well with?
What's that?
You play Prayer-Sworn Punisher, and then next turn you play Totally Not a Chord Plush plus some like 1 mana spell or something.
Next up from Just Nigel, we've got Bella, Lullaby Jill, 1 and a white for a 2/2. Legendary creature Weasel Bard at rare. Counters are stun counters in addition to their other types. She has an impressive repertoire of vocalizations, but each has the same soporific effect.
Do you know soporific?
Only from the blue Soporific Springs. It's like already another magic card.
Soporific, of course, is puts you to sleep.
Sleepy, yeah.
One of the many words we have in our melting pot English language for such an effect.
Yeah.
We've got a lullaby weasel here, which is a fun new idea. And we've got counters or stun counters in addition to their other types.
All right, so +1/+1 counters would be the main target.
Mm-hmm.
Those +1/+1 counters would keep things from untapping and then tick themselves down in the process. So you're sort of
Mm-hmm.
removing those +1/+1 counters as you go, as long as you're dealing with a permanent that's attempting to tap.
This brings us back to when and if do players untap? Which is not with the suspicion that a player with a stun counter necessarily does something.
You're thinking of experience counters or something.
I'm thinking of poison counters.
Poison, yeah.
Do I lose a poison counter each turn due to this effect? As long as I have at least one permanent that is like doing like there is a like when a player untaps, right? Like
yeah, I think this card might have to say counters on permanents are stun counters. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah. Additionally, we go okay. So, how does this affect cards in suspend? It probably doesn't. Sagas are mostly okay. Planeswalkers are mostly okay. +1/+1 counters, -1/-1 counters, things in that nature are certainly.
I'm gonna break this one the same way I broke a card last week. Saga creatures, Final Fantasy style. We're doing it. We're attacking with our Saga creature and get it. They attempt to untap, and instead they tick down, and then I attack. They attempt to tick down. I'm pulling the Saga tokens off of my Yojimbo.
You'll only be able to attack every other turn, right?
Oh, I guess that is true. Yeah. Or you'll only be able to untap once because you'll keep applying a stun counter to yourself. Like you'll stay tapped and remove one, stay tapped, remove one, stay tapped, remove one. So attack once and then re-trigger one thing over and over and over. Anyhow, what is the value of this card as like a hate bear? So maybe we should recenter ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it is useful to think about. Yeah. Does this potentially lock down Saga creatures, even if your opponent is getting a spell effect each turn from probably the second chapter of their Saga? Or it depends on when you cast this, maybe the third chapter, or who knows what. Or maybe it goes multiple? Who knows? This can tap those down in perpetuity. It doesn't do much against normal Sagas. It does pretty great against Urza's Saga in particular, because even though you get to just keep your Urza Saga around, you
can't make robots.
You can't really ever actually untap enough to, because it's not like stun counters say you untap and then this taps it immediately. There's no window there. So using this against that makes sense. Using this against hardened scales or similar decks.
Ring the bell.
What do we call? Do you know the deck Dice Factory?
I've heard the term, but I don't think I know what it is.
Okay, so you use one of the conduit cards.
Oh, core tapper and stuff. Okay.
Yeah. And then you use the chalice that's XX multi-kicker, and the XXX version of that taps for mana of colors. And you put a bunch of counters on those things by shifting them from other 1 mana, like Scars of Mirrodin enters with 5 charge counter, and then you just shift those and move them around. Or you play Core Tapper and things like that, and then you use stuff like Magistrate's Scepter. That's a surprisingly competitive deck in a lot of competitive sort of situations when Wrath of the Skies doesn't exist. And maybe Wrath of the Skies won't always exist. And Bella Lullaby Jill will be really great to deal with both that and Hardened Scales, and potentially specifically Heliod sort of setups.
Sure, yeah.
And and against Vivid Lands, as we say, the scourge of every format.
Yeah.
Vivid Land Reflecting Pool 5-color control.
Yeah.
It's 2008 again, Tim. It's your upkeep. What do you want to do?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little skeptical that I'll get a lot of mileage out of this in like an average game state. And even when I bring it in, it doesn't start working fast enough. Like my opponent can still just keep their countered up creature untapped, and then sure, it's got 3 stun counters on it, but it's just not tapping. So like my 2/2 is never getting in. It is fun and it is novel. And I've not ever seen this text on a Magic card before, so that part's good. Yeah, bonus point hits the music one because telling lullabies, maybe not exile-y, but yeah, cool card. Did not expect to get a Weasel Bard. So yeah, thanks for the card.
Our next submission is from Eint, and it is Coin Snatch, Eternal Hunger.
Oh.
It is 5 mana, so that's 2 generic, a black mana, and a red. So kind of a off-center sort of mana cost we sometimes see. It's a 2/2 legendary creature, Atog Rogue at Mythic Rare. It's a 5 mana 2/2. It has flash, and if one or more artifact tokens would be created under an opponent's control, instead you may create those tokens and lose 1 life for each token created this way. Do this only once each turn.
Whoa.
Sacrifice an artifact. Coin Snatch gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. And then the card as a whole has Foretell for 2 black and red. So that's 4 mana for the Foretell. And Foretell is always 2 to start off. And then this would be then 2 black and red. So instead of paying 5 mana, you can pay 6, but on installment, so you could get this on the battlefield on turn 3 or 4.
Yeah. All right, so for 4 or 5 mana, I'm gonna say, "Whoop! Here comes the Atog." It's gonna pop in. It's gonna. My opponent was about to create 3 food tokens. Instead, I create 3 food tokens and lose 3 life, and that lasts indefinitely. Like as long as this Coin Snatch survives, basically prevents my opponents from creating artifact tokens. Because the life thing, there's a may in there, so I could say, "Hey, you can have that token. I don't want to lose 1 life to get that." And then the idea is, hey, I'm stealing all these artifact tokens because I want to Atog it up. I want to turn him into a 4/4, a 6/6, or an 8/8 temporarily.
I feel slightly funny about if one or more, etc., do this only once each turn. I recognize that is probably like explicitly spelling out what it needs to happen.
Yeah.
But to me, reading it, I'm like, oh, great. If one or more, I'm going to do this. Do this only once each turn. Wait, 1 token or 1 batch of tokens?
Oh.
My opponent's creating 3. Do I lose 3 life and create? I assume I do.
I think
because
so, yeah.
of 1 or more tokens and create those tokens. But specifically because of how the current like wording across all of Magic for like activate this ability or do this only once each turn is written.
The once each turn means that, like, yeah, I might be able to grab 3 food tokens at the same time, but if my opponent is like trying to pop off with like a Stormkiln Artist, which is like a popular commander card, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, create a treasure. Atog here would capture the first one, but then my opponent can cast other spells and create more treasure tokens later.
This fits as a Tog, which we've not seen in many years. The flash response, I think, amps this card up considerably. This goes from being like kind of a weird, expensive legend to, okay, yeah, this can like just snag a sometimes a win out from under your opponent, but also just like a winning turn suddenly becomes, I have a bunch of fuel, maybe I can attack next turn. Which is like that's a good way to win. You know, this being a legend, I wonder if people would play this in Commander, where it's like, okay, I can kind of tell that this is going to be flashed in.
Yeah, as your commander, yeah, it's a little awkward as your commander. How good would it be in general in an average commander game? Like it would obviously hose a couple decks, but probably not enough that I'm putting a 5-mana card in my commander deck. You only get a couple 5-mana cards in your commander decks typically. You only get, 5 or whatever. And I'm not sure what would allow this to make the cut. There is like a black-red artifact deck, Imskir or whatever, who sacrifices a ton of artifacts. So like strategy-wise, this fits that deck reasonably well. But in that case, like the ATOG effect is like not really a commander level effect. If I want to threaten a player, I need 10 artifacts in order to threaten a player, like to get 20-ish damage. If I'm only dealing 10 extra damage, that's not really commander level. I wonder why we haven't gotten more ATOGs. The last one was in original Meriden. It's kind of weird they never did a throwback to that.
Yeah. I mean, not the last one was in original Mirrodin, right? We had...
That's the newest one, yeah. Megatog.
That's... Oh, wow. Even, like, the callbacks or throwbacks, like, to Psychotog, we got Psychic Frog.
I guess that's true.
I've never encountered a, like, good thesis explanation for it, but there's some implication of, and we aren't doing this again, ever. And there's been some directive that we don't do this again. Otherwise, it would have come up in one of the many, many callbacks to previous Magic things, sort of sets.
Random commander cards, yeah, absolutely.
Huh. But at the same time, it doesn't seem likely that it's a, like, there's something culturally insensitive that we don't know about it, given that I think Maro still, like, pilots the Blogatog.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, Blogatog. He hasn't tried to change that name, so yeah.
It is just a mystery that we don't have the clues to solve. Yeah.
I don't know. They're kind of fun. They got their big old mouths. Weird. Yeah, it's weird that we haven't gotten more.
I think
it seems almost impossible that we had. Like, the more I think about this, like 23 years we haven't gotten an ATOG. It's like such a free, juicy callback. That's so strange.
I do think it is somewhat reasonable that they've decided that Lurgoyfs are going to be kind of a insatiable, devouring sort of thing instead. They don't tend to do the, like, sacrifice all your stuff and feed me. Instead, it's like, look at all the stuff you've already put in the graveyard. I'm going to be fed by that, or things like that. You think about, like, the Detritivore, Motivore, Cantivore, Cognivore, like all of those sort of things. I could see a world where we got even more Lurgoyfs than we currently do, and even more kind of other stuff. And having little guys who want to eat all your artifacts is, like, that's a really good flavor to work with. So who knows?
Yeah, we got, like, the Kaladesh Avishkar Gremlins. I don't know. It doesn't have the hit of nostalgia. Maybe they don't need that. It's just crazy. Like, why haven't we gotten one? Like, it's I don't know. They're mining, like, these old references so aggressively, and we haven't gotten an ATOG.
And that's, I think, part of what, like, really indicates towards the thesis that, like, okay, there's some sort of
something.
Yeah. And maybe this isn't me trying to be conspiracy minded, just being like, it seems that that's intentional, and therefore this is not me saying we shouldn't design ATOGs, but, like, it's kind of a don't even ask about, like, don't ask official wizards about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like there's something there that we shouldn't ask about, just, like, on the DL.
Like, maybe the original design was, like, copied off of some comic book, and they're like, we have gotten away with it so far, but we're not going to push our luck and expose ourselves to a lawsuit. Some random thing like that.
Who could say? Yeah.
Alrighty.
But
yeah, tangent aside.
Coin Snatch, Eternal Hunger. I'm also thinking, do you know the coin coffer enemy in Mario?
Oh, yeah, I recognize this guy. He looks like a little, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
I'm imagining, you can imagine a frog coin purse like Naruto has. And I've seen people in real life with those sort of things. You can imagine a Tog running around with, like, a coin purse, like, big mouth going, eat me. Yeah, like, that's an easy, like 1-to-1 to try to imagine.
The little, I don't know what it's called, but the little clasp or whatever at the top of a coin purse,
Mhm.
like that could be in the middle of its lips. Like that, yeah, that would make a lot of sense visually. It's an evil coin purse. All right. I like this card a little more now.
And it is a 2/2
Yeah, it's
that you
2/2.
can spend 2 mana to start off the process.
It's pretty Haiti. Yeah. Moves the game forward, I would say, is fair to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the submission.
All right. Our next card here is from Stellar, who is a new submitter. New submitter. New. They sent in.
We just keep that going for like 60 seconds. just keep.
Save that energy for the next new submitter, and then we'll deploy that technology next time. They submitted Council of the Silent, which is white for a 2/1. It's a creature angel with flash and flying. 2 mana, 2/1 flash flyer. Other permanents that entered this turn lose all non-mana abilities. None may speak in the presence of the holy.
Yeah. These like skeleton chained angels.
Jeez.
Like that's pretty metal.
It's like stripping or dividing an angel up into different parts of their body, like that old terror card.
Imagine doing that too. Is it Brizella, Voice of Nightmares? Is that what
we're unmerging the meld card? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So other permanents that enter this turn lose all non-mana abilities.
Yeah.
You can take you can take haste off of a bunch of things.
Yes.
My opponent has tons of 3/3s or tons of 2/2s, Flamekin Zealots. I don't know whether Flamekin Zealot shows up in modern graveyard decks, present day graveyard decks, or Bridge from Below sort of things, but that's where my brain is usually at. Anyways, we're removing haste from things, we're removing haste granting from things that can buy you a turn to wipe the board or deal with what you need to, or win the game on your own terms. This can come in and, I mean, it won't deal with Splinter Twin, but it can deal with Kiki Jiki as long as you're getting it in on the right set of untap tap. So that whatever you're trying to shut off, it can't be something that your opponent can just continue doing in response to you flashing in Council of the Silent. Where, like, yeah, eventually Council of the Silent is going to resolve. But as long as it's on the stack, I'm going to keep doing my thing.
Yeah, I think you typically are going to want to do this almost counterspell style, where your opponent casts their Planeswalker, and then you flash this in. The Planeswalker then resolves and enter the battlefield this turn, so it can't activate abilities this turn. And then you pick it off with your flyer. You can use it a little bit less reactively with haste, like you were saying. You can wait a little bit, like wait for go to combat, then flash this guy in. Oh, all your haste is turned off. But yeah, I think it's, even though it's like sort of looking at other things that enter this turn, it's trying to enter first so that it can stop anything you might want to try to do. Almost like kind of like a silence, the card silence that like prevents spells being cast this turn. Like it's a little bit like that, in that it's saying like ahead of time. I mean, I guess you could do it upkeep before your opponent can do anything, before they've, played their land or whatever. You can slam this in an upkeep and then say, hey, don't bother playing anything that needs an ability this turn, which would go with the name too, Council of the Silent.
I feel like some people would get tripped up trying to play this in response to a creature entering when this creature enters the battlefield sort of ability. And that there's no way to time this to stop one of those going off.
That has already triggered, yeah.
And like removing that creature's abilities doesn't stop that when it's on the trigger. And so the cross section or like pie chart or whatever of cards that this interferes with is different than the ones that we are used to dealing with.
Okay. Just to double check in, the read that I have here is that like I play this, my opponent casts a Planeswalker. That Planeswalker can't activate this turn, but it can activate in future turns.
Oh, wait. I'm thinking it says other permanents that have already entered when this enters lose all non-mana abilities. But what you're suggesting, I think, is probably right, which is that any permanents that entered this turn lose all. That's. I keep reading other permanents that enter this turn as the turn this entered, because that's the way, like, English would be interpreted. But I think you're right that the magic meaning is like entirely different, and I was misreading that.
Yeah, and I this is, these abilities for these hate bears have been really concise, but then have a lot of sort of ambiguity to them that even if they are accurate, like even if the rules text is written fully correctly and is fully functional, like the first read of it is a little tricky. At first, maybe because the word enter is on there, I thought this was like a sort of an enter's ability of its own. Maybe kind of like you're saying, of where it's like negating things for a turn and then it's over. But I think it's a little bit more like it's a continuous effect, right? This is going to persist as long as this angel stays alive. But the things that it affects are going to shift turn to turn, because or at least the way that I'm seeing it, like it's only while this is on the battlefield, anybody else that entered this turn, it stops haste basically permanently as long as it survives, because each of those haste creatures are going to enter on their own turn, want to attack, but they can't attack. Wild
and weird.
Yeah. Cool art. Cool concept. I think the available targets is wide enough on this card that I think it hits I'm trying to play the 12 hate bear deck, and I'm trying to cover a bunch of different things with my different hate bears. I think this fits in that kind of strategy. It doesn't have to be sideboard only, and progresses the game of flying on a hate bear is awesome too.
Playing this alongside, like as an enabler for your shadow effects, whether it's Death Shadow or Moon Shadow sort of things, so that enter with a bunch of -1/-1 counters, or that just have a like malice ability based on your like life total or things like that, but have a very large printed total. There's space to play with those and this. Some of those will work better than others, but it's very fun to see white for the cost flash flying 2/1, because that's going to constrain your deck building in interesting ways if you're trying to play this as an enabler.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But it's also a pretty good like flash in blocker. Worst case scenario, a 2-mana flyer that kind of can pseudo haste because of flash, or like just bring in to block a 2-mana attacker. Yeah, there's a lot of space for that to be a effective card in different ways. An anti-musical theme, but I think it's playing on the themes of audio and music.
Okay.
I wouldn't say this is directly Exile in any particular way, but this absolutely is a hate bear, and it's a fascinating, different card than I expected it to be.
All right. Yeah. It's a cool card. Great first submission. Certainly thinking about a lot of technology there, which is awesome to see on a first attempt. So I'm glad to have you here, Stellar.
Okay. Our next submission is from Ash. It's Numa, Fervor of the Faithful. It's 4 mana, white, red, for a 4/4 legendary creature human cleric at rare. It has Vigilance, Menace, and Ward. Pay 2 mana and pay 2 life. Then, whenever a player casts a spell, Numa deals damage to its controller equal to the amount of generic mana spent to cast that spell.
Deals damage equal to the amount of generic mana spent to cast the spell. You can't spend generic mana. So this is either trying to say equal the amount of colorless mana spent to cast the spell, or the amount of generic mana in the spell's mana cost.
Or the amount of mana spent to fulfill generic costs, which might be even more words, but I think is closer to the specific.
And they have some notes on this too. they put a little design note. Going back and forth between generic mana spent to cast that spell and amount of generic mana and its mana cost. On one hand, the mana cost hits things like delve spells. On the other hand, there's play to the amount of mana to the amount spent with cost increases.
Yeah. And thinking about ward, the ward 2 mana sort of thing.
Yeah.
That increases the generic costs paid total, but like it is ward.
It introduces a second thing cost to pay because it's completely separate from the spell you're casting.
Yeah, it's a triggered ability. Okay. Mm-hmm. I was like 90% sure, but I'm like, I gotta look this up just to make sure. And so I wonder.
I think maybe the true wording that they're looking for is like equal to the amount of mana spent to pay generic costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So 4 mana, 4/4 for Vigilance Menace. So on the battlefield, this is a solid creature. The Vigilance Menace combo is kind of nice because it's like any sort of backup I add to keep this alive is going to probably like start getting 2-for-1s because they're going to try to double block it. They want to get off the battlefield. They can't attack through it until they kill it. When you're supporting this creature, you want to stick to your 1 mana combat tricks and not your 2 mana generic costy combat tricks because you don't want to be losing a little bit of life here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it probably does a pretty solid job of starting to slap your opponents around for casting spells, because we really try to stay away from costs like white, white, red, red. We don't want to have a lot of those in the deck. A lot of people are going to have 2 and a green, 4 and a blue, and get a lot of damage from Numa.
Yeah. It's fun to see this white, white, red, red mana cost and then go, okay, I can see why you'd want a deck full of that. In addition to the kind of art description here, the art shows a Therosian philosopher weaving blinding white and red magical threads over an Omen Path portal. An angry crowd cheers behind her. In the far background, a broken piece of Realm Breaker towers over the landscape.
Realm Breaker, the big Phyrexian tree that punched the Omen Path holes in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is sort of saying, hey, Numa is attempting to basically put a net over one of those, a very powerful magical net over one of those Omen Paths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's like also a fun, here's some devotion. We're anti-devotion. You can be a mono blue deck, but what's the actual devotion like on the both permanents and non-permanents that you're casting? Are you casting cryptic commands? Okay, you just get 1 point of damage. Are you casting treasure cruises and Vidalcan Shackles? That's not devoted. And so this as a specifically like Theros flavored punishing anti-devotion, punishing insufficient devotion. I think that's where this really like sings together. Once you figure out the best rules text and then take it to like the rules, does like whoever is the head of rules and be like, can you make up new rules terminology to make this easier to write? Because I agree, it can also be difficult to write.
We started off with a wording nitpick, but once we get that wording right, the ability is quite effective. It's a little bigger than a hate bear, so it's not slapping your opponents around early. I have to like kind of shape my deck around being able to cast this in time. But if I can fulfill those requirements, then yeah, your opponents in the commander game are going to be taking a lot of damage. Yeah. And even in 1-on-1, they're probably going to be taking a decent amount of damage.
I think this is a fun submission to this challenge because it certainly thinks about the role of the hate bear in a different way. And while white-red aggro and white-red midrange don't need a lot of help in recent history, in a lot of different ways, I think that this is it's neat to come to what do we want to curtail, tax, limit, kind of prevent, and then how do we stand against that? And then going, this makes sense on a 4-mana 4/4. Once certain things have happened on the battlefield, the card kind of makes more mathematical sense. And I give that a thumbs up.
Nice. Thank you for the card. Next up, or last up, from James Dalton Bell. is Countersong Healer. I coughed right as you gasped, and it really flipped me upside down. Anyhow, we've got Countersong Healer, white green for a 2/3. Creature Elf Bard at common. Ooh. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you by creatures. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you by creatures. So combat damage still happening, lightning bolts still happening. But when a creature taps to deal damage to you, Countersong Healer can stop that.
Yeah.
There are a couple of these, like there's usually some red card that's like, hey, tap to deal damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, untap me. Or whenever you cast a gold card, untap me. So I can get like 1 to 2 to 3 damage a turn on my opponents. That's a fun limited strategy. Countersong Healer says, nope. Are there more common cases than that where creatures are dealing damage directly to opponents?
I want to talk about a few old cards.
Okay.
And I'm making sure I have all of them. The first is Riptide Biologist from Onslaught, which is it's got others, but the thing that matters is 1 in a blue for a 1/2 creature with protection from beasts. And a similar card, but very different, Beloved Chaplain, which is 1 in a white for a 1/1 from Odyssey with protection from creatures. And I want to say when I was young, just due to, I don't know what combination of different language things, I was like, but those 2 words mean the same thing. Beasts are just what you call magical creatures. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Okay.
If you're playing like Pokemon or Jade Cocoon or things like that, like all of the creatures are, divine beasts, or they're called Pokemon, whether they look like a person or a whale, or you know what I mean? Like what those things are. But I think in many ways this goes all the way back to Uncle Istvan. From the dark, prevent all damage that we dealt to this creature by creatures, except Countersong Healer is defending you, not itself. And all of the examples I've given were good blockers. This isn't, I mean, it's a 2/3. So it's a decent blocker that way. I don't think this does enough on its own.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say. Maybe the idea is I'm trying to scope down to common, so I want to find like I can stop one other card in this environment that is also a common that I can get in the way of.
That seems possible. A suggestion that I made earlier in the Discord, where I will reiterate it here, is there should be a 2/1 with prevent all non-combat damage that we dealt to you or this creature by creatures. Because if specifically your opponent has a various pinging creatures that they're going to be doing some sort of dominating strategy with, whether that is like Gelectrode, classic is it sort of things, or just the goblin with like a machine gun called. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, sharpshooter, goblin sharpshooter.
Yes, thank you, goblin sharpshooter. If this is going to like interact with those strategies, it's going to die to those strategies, if that makes sense. That almost all of those are going to be able to attack creatures as well as they can attack the face. That's not going to be everything. We do sometimes get pingers that have a discount on some part of them because they can just go straight to the face. Some of the most dominant of those make you lose life instead. It gets around like protection and things like that. I think Zulaport Cutthroat gets played, or like Blood Artist, or different things in different ways like that. But so if we're intentionally going to be stopping just non-combat damage dealt by creatures, I'm thinking a lot about pinging in one form or another. And if that happens, I want this creature to be able to protect itself. Maybe your opponent assembles their combo and they can clear the rest of the board, at least, but they can't take out your face and they can't take out the healer. Otherwise, they just take out the healer and then take out the face. And this is like a great glass spinner, that it's delayed just enough. And maybe that's enough at common. then the question becomes, if this could protect itself, would that be too much in a world where all green removal involves fight effects? And I'm like, I think that's fine for a white-green card to be really good at winning fights.
Oh, it beats fights. Oh, okay. That is kind of on the enable side, but yeah, that is a thing that like a reasonable thing that would happen in games that this card could do.
James shared with us notes, like a
notebook, yeah,
page of notes. Every time I rotate it, my computer rotates it and then says it could not be rotated.
Whoa!
So I have to like read it in like 2-line glimpses. Things to hate in Pauper: artifacts,
Pauper,
burn, graveyard, instants and sorceries, big mana strategies, small creatures go wide, ninjas, tokens, dispute effects, like draw twos that sack. Sure. And so then trying to build specifically for Pauper, which we should get our special Pauper correspondent, Marcus, on to help us with that.
Sure.
And maybe this seems very plausible that there is what I would call like a trumpeter combo, or one of those like energy combos that brings a single creature in and out of the battlefield just over and over and over again. And some way of having that creature deal damage to a player. Would this work particularly well against a burn strategy? Are there a lot of common Pauper burn effects?
Yeah, we need a consultant.
If they said prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you, that's probably something we would want higher than common. At the same time, how often is non-combat damage being dealt to your face? I mean, it really depends on the format, and like, do we have Bloodthirst or something like Bloodthirst that we are trying to, or a Spectacle, etc., that we're trying to trigger? Do we have a lot of those effects? And then do we want a gold common that can prevent those effects? Like, is that something where hey, I'm willing to splash this extra color because it helps keep me safe from this strategy if I can get this creature on the battlefield and for as long as it survives?
I just have to imagine that like this is printed in some Ravnica set where creatures dealing damage to face like naturally occurs on like 5 different cards. Because otherwise I kind of look at this as sort of an old school common of like just power level common. Normally commons are not going to be setting like continuous effects like this. It's a little funny. I mean, it's not necessarily board complexity because it's such a rare thing to have happen, but it's in a funny spot, I guess. I mean, the 2-mana 2/3 is a solid creature. We've been starting to see more and more of those, so it certainly does stuff. I would be surprised if I put this card in a deck, I guess.
Yeah, I can see trying to come up with a common hate bear and ending up here. I'm glancing through more of the notes, and like some of the ideas ruled out, like, hey, something that messes with mana just can't really be at common for the most part.
Yeah, this is like a noble attempt at a common hate bear, because I like, does it help progress the game? Kind of, yeah. 2-mana 2/3. Does it slow my opponent down? A little bit. It more like evens out a race than it like actually thwarts too many plans, I guess. So it is a common hate bear. I think it's kind of cool to attempt a common. Like, you really put a huge restriction on yourself to design a card like this.
Yeah.
Cool card. Thanks for submitting it. Thanks for submitting these notes. These are fun. This is a good thing to just jump in and read all your ideas.
Okay, one more thing on James's card.
Oh, okay.
A card that you and I should both remember at all times. Just like it's always floating, which is Raid Bombardment.
Oh, okay.
A common, and build around common enchantment from Rise of Eldrazi. 2 and a red for a common enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to defending player.
Yeah. Okay.
Countersunk Healer is a good answer to Raid Bombardment if you need a incidental answer to that, which, I mean, I've lost games to Raid Bombardment. I don't think I've lost games to Raid Bombardment in some 20 years. I know you've worked with Rise of Eldrazi.
Yeah. It's an effective
more
card. Yeah. Like
Mhm.
it's hard to completely stop.
Mm-hmm.
This creature probably stops the bombardment damage and also stops some of the creatures from attacking because it, affects creatures that cost or that have power 2 or less. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess if raid
Being,
bombardment is a component, I don't know Pauper at all, but if it was a component, this would be good against
oh
that.
yeah, that could be a card in Pauper. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in the Pauper decks that I'm looking at, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So I could totally believe I'm wrong.
Price of Eldrazi is such a good set. Anyways.
Oh, this like 10% of this Pauper meta game thing is this mono red madness burn. It does not
Okay.
have the card that we're looking for, but it does have a blue black card in the mono red deck, which is pretty cool. Sneaky Snacker. Shout out to Sneaky Snacker.
Oh. I was going to say A, is Vexing Devil played a lot, and or B, is Vexing Devil somehow common and I forgot this fact? No, Vexing Devil is a rare. Maybe it'll be printed at common one day.
All right. That's our hopefully finally vindication for Vexing Devil.
Uh-huh.
All right, so that's our 8 cards for the week. Do you have a pick? Do you have a favorite?
It's hard for me not to pick Prayer Sworn Punisher. It's got the plea tokens, it's got the exalted. That just is like playing so much in my sort of alley.
Juliet bonus point. Yeah.
And it is, of the cards that we see today, the one I feel most confident about its power level and the gameplay ramifications it would have, what set I would want to put this into, what other things I would want to like have interact with this effect, and how this would interact with those things. I have like, by I think a pretty good margin, the highest like confidence threshold about how this works and how I would like design with it. In on top of it being like a card that appeals to me on specific vectors. And so that's why Auxiliary Otter's Prayer Sworn Punisher is my pick for this episode.
I'm trying to stay close to as tempted as I am to give Wobbles because of the birthday bonus point. It's a little too far off a Hate Bear to me. And so I think I'm going to swing all the way in the other way to something that I think is quite Hate Bear, which is Stellar's Council of the Silent. That's the 2-mana flyer that like stops abilities of things that enter this turn, slows planeswalkers down by a turn, stops haste, stops a whole variety of other stuff. And moves the game forward, which is something we want out of a Hate Bear, and flying really helps with that. I think the rules are a little hard to grok on first read or second read or third read, but maybe we could add a little bit extra text to that, and it would get super clear, and then that card would be sick. And plus, first submission, got to give some juice to that. Like nailing a novel card with a lot of application on your first submission here. Gotta applaud that. So thank you for submitting that card.
And the end of one design challenge means keep submitting cards for the next one. We've got some great submissions already for July's design challenge, Incarnation Day. Design an incarnation that could be part of a cycle. We've got a number of optional bonus points, which I'll go over very in brief, but you can check out lots of extra text about those in the Discord here. The first is in Core Nation, that this card would be potentially printable in Foundations 2 or a Foundations Jumpstart.
I got some questions about what that means. So I think kind of quickly there, like Foundations is sort of implying it's not using like a set specific keyword. I mean, it could if you really want to, but if it's using a keyword, that should be a keyword that would be on a lot of stuff in a set. It shouldn't be like throwing something really specific like Monarch or something onto a card like this.
Yeah. I also think in general, we were able to see some things in Foundations that were surprising. Yeah. And Foundations 2 could also surprise us. But take a look at kind of what the Foundations cards looked like. Yeah. And envision what you might want in standard for 5+ years as a like thing that potentially new players are coming to Magic and saying, okay, this is going to inspire me, or I can build off of this, or et cetera, et cetera.
And then you got 5 kind of name bonus points here.
Yeah, name bonus points based off of a color that you're using. In Coronation, if your card is white, its name is a Regal Virtue. Ink Carnation, if your card is blue, its name is a Ink or Octopi. Incarnation, if your card is black, its name deals with the Gnostic separation of mind and body. I answered a bunch of questions about what that might look like. If you have any questions about that in the Design Challenge channel there. Intarnation, if your card is red, its name is a cowboy word. And Incarnation, if your card is green, its name deals with flowers. We've got also some, examples of these words if they are helpful over here in the Discord. And these submissions are going to be due July 31st.
Always looking forward to all these. There's so many bonus points here, but mostly around kind of theming the card. This is a little bit more, give us that big incarnation. These are usually kind of big creatures, though they don't have to be. These are big creatures that have some kind of splashy ability. And then the incarnationness also implies like a cycle. Like that's it doesn't have to be part of an existing cycle, but we want to imagine that a cycle could definitely exist where there are 4 other cards that you didn't submit, but that we could believe exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, always looking forward to that. I think that's it for the pod for the week and the end of the June challenge review. We're kind of taking it easy for the summer, just doing a lot of these like challenge review episodes. It's a nice way for us to like work on our design skills during the summer here. Well, we got a bunch of other commitments. So thanks for hanging out with these challenge review episodes with us. Hop on the Discord as well. I'm sure that as the design challenge also breeds a lot of discussion. If you want to get feedback on your cards, hop in the Discord and start working on that in the Discord. Give your work in progress and get some feedback on it and really hone that card.
Yeah.
Anything that we want to tell people on the way out here?
Yeah. So the exciting new season of ILB Pod for Castmas is already in swing here. As you're listening to this episode, our first episode, I think, will be out. It should be a relatively short but fun one as a introduction to a classic Borges text. Following that, we will have some exciting discussion of a very Jonas Christmas movie. And then some exciting edutainment on the 3 wise men and kind of how the nature of threeness, of being a guy, or being, for instance, about being a guy around Christmas, about brotherhood and brotherly love, and like the love for oneself as a kind of brotherly love, and ultimately asking the question, was Jesus the original child star?
Hell yeah.
And you can find all of that at ILB Pod for Castmas.
I'll look forward to it. Yeah. And if you need to find either of us in the meantime, just hop on Discord to ask us a question. I think maybe that includes like if you're interested in being on an episode or you have an episode idea that you'd like to hear us do, hop on the Discord, tell us about that. If you really want to get involved, you can also give yourself the contributors role, which allows you to help us plan out episodes. So we'd be happy to see anybody who's been participating, wants to get more involved. Please hop on and join forces with me here. Most of all, thank you everyone for listening.
And always remember, arms in the man I sing, who forced by fate and haughty Juno's unrelenting hate, expelled and exiled left the Trojan shore. Long labors both by sea and land he bore, and in the doubtful war before he won the Latin realm and built the destined town, his banished gods restored to rights divine, and settled sure succession in his line. From whence the race of Alban fathers come, and the long glories of majestic Rome. O Muse, the causes and the crimes relate, what goddess was provoked, and whence her hate? For what offense the Queen of Heaven began to persecute so brave, so just a man? Involved his anxious life in endless cares, exposed to wants, and hurried into wars. Can heavenly minds such high resentment show? Or exercise their spite in human woe?